We are so excited to be presenting the second annual Scary Places in Ventura County.
And in this video, we're going to be focusing on the super haunted historic neighborhood of downtown Oxnard. Richard Sennett, a famous historian and author on a book of Oxnard, has stated that this area is an epicenter of ghosts, paranormal events, and monsters.
That's all of Oxnard, not just this neighborhood. We don't want you to think you can't move into this neighborhood or anything. We are just sharing some of the stories that we have heard as we've met people who live in this neighborhood.
There have been very interesting accounts. There was one account of a local resident who saw a nun out on the street here at 3 a.m. who looked like she had a stocking over her face and had been moving all over the neighborhood at an unreasonable pace.
It was really freaky.
Yeah.
But we're going to be starting over at the old St. John's Hospital. There are many stories of paranormal activity when the building behind us was St. John's Hospital, such as accounts of people hearing noises in the hallway and going and looking and no one is there, or that they saw somebody looking at them through a second-story window and there was fog on the window, or children laughing and again, no one being there. But in 1992, they decided to move the hospital to a different area and left the building abandoned.
There was partygoers who would recount how they had broken into the building and would leave screaming because they felt like an entity was following them and calling their name.
They then turned the building into a senior living center where residents and people who are visiting also feel as if somebody is watching them over their shoulder or looking at them over their bed.
Are you from Oxnard and have experienced a paranormal event? Please leave a comment below.
We'd love to hear your stories, and we know our viewers would too.
Yeah.
Because there are so many different stories that have happened in this neighborhood, we're going to be able to tell you some of the stories as we walk it. But we've been lucky enough to be invited in two of the homes. One of them, the famous Levy House, and another one, the owner has asked us not to tell you the address or their name because they just don't want to be known as the person who lives in the haunted house.
Right.
So stay tuned to the end of this video where we'll be able to explore those two homes with you. One of them with a famous paranormal investigator. As in all hospitals, St. John's had a morgue, and the morgue was torn down. And they decided to build some new condos on the site. And while they were starting to build this new site, the construction workers were talking about how they always felt spooked out because there was somebody, again, watching them. They just felt like this was really eerie. And Bart was talking about, have you ever seen those movies where it's like you're going and you're building on one of the old cemetery sites and all of the ghosts kind of go like this? That was probably what happened, because when these condos started to be built, that's when the paranormal activity seemed to really increase in this neighborhood. I was speaking to one of the residents that lives close by to this complex, and he said that his father actually came to look at one of these condos and just left because he felt as if there was a whole room of ghosts just sitting around him. I've actually been in 3 of these condos, and it does feel like there is somebody in the room with you.
On the plus side, if you're living alone, it could be nice to have company.
One thing you'll notice when talking to the residents in this area is over and over again you'll hear about them finding weird etchings around their doorways that they say might be Latin. And in one instance, one resident said while they were getting ready to put a patio in their backyard, they found a little section of concrete that also had what seemed to be Latin etched down. They put a patio over it, and now whenever anybody walks onto that patio and the little section of concrete that's fully covered, it feels as if they're stuck in that section when they're walking on it. I've experienced it, and it is really like somebody is holding you there on the ground, and it's almost like a protective bubble around you. A couple of years ago, one couple moved into their house, and the husband went to work, and the wife was working and she kept hearing voices, and she looked out of the corner of her eye and she thought she saw her husband walking by. And she looked around and he was still at work, and when he came home, he found her sitting in her car and she said, I don't want to live here anymore. So I guess what I'm saying is you probably, if you're thinking about moving into this area, might want to feel comfortable with that paranormal activity. Another story that I heard was one of the residents late at night heard the refrigerator making a lot of noise, so they went downstairs and they saw that the refrigerator door was open. which was odd. So they went over to close it, and as they closed it, they saw a dark figure, a really tall man standing next to the fridge. They freaked out, they closed it, and they ran away. But there was no one in the house. Kind of gives you chills, huh? Now this is from a different resident. They felt really cold, like the wind was coming in, and they went to go and shut their window. That was how strong it was, and the window was closed. That same person also was looking around the house and saw another figure standing there with a man with a sombrero. And apparently other people in their family also kept seeing that figure, a man with a sombrero on. Another story that just gave me chills was this young woman would go and she would lay down and put her head on the pillow. And then she'd start hearing scratching at the door. And her dog was in the room with her on the bed. And she'd sit up and the scratching would stop. And she'd lay back down and the scratching would start again. And her dog would start barking and freaking out. And she was the only one in the house. Now, one resident told me that he was super excited because he saw one of those dark figures walking in his house, and he pulled out his phone and he videotaped it, and he was so excited because he had it. But then when he went to look at it again, it had been deleted. Those are just a few of the many stories I've heard. What we're gonna go do next is check out the one house of the he who shall not be named because he doesn't want to be named, not because he's that scary's house, and then the Henry Levy house. Do you like this kind of video? Let us know so we know to make more in the future. Also, if you want us to focus on another area, let us know so we can do a video just for you. As I said, in the first house, the owners asked to remain anonymous, and so we've chosen not to videotape in front of his house. And actually, even in his house, we didn't videotape anyone talking. And so, pull up your popcorn and whatever drink you want to have. Let's sit down and I'll tell you some ghost stories. The home is located close to this convent and also close to the morgue. And so it is feeling a lot of that ghost and paranormal energy that is circulating around that area. When you walk up to the home, it actually feels like this dark cloud is over it, kind of pressing you out. They actually have a fountain in the front yard that has a lion that is focused looking at the house, not out. And usually you have the lion focused out to protect the home. So it's almost as if the people who put the fountain there were trying to protect the house from something. When you enter into the house, there's this stairway and there's a door that goes underneath the stairway, kind of like the Harry Potter, except for it's at the far wall and then you can travel underneath the stairs through that door. Now, allegedly, in that closet area, there is a ghost that is a little girl. There was a little boy that came to visit for a couple of days, and he actually loved hanging out underneath that stairway. And he would be talking and talking and talking. And when his mom asked him, who is he talking to? He said, oh, I've made best friends with this little girl. When we went to go and visit it, Hannah actually went and saw the little girl and talked to her. And the little girl came up and wanted to play one of the games on her phone. And so Hannah was like, okay, the only game I have actually is this cat game that you can, chase the little mouse and everything else and tap on it. And let me just tell you, the little girl was not impressed, but she didn't get all angry and stomp around. Instead, she just was like, that's not fun. Also, the little girl tends to travel around to the different homes between the Henry Levy house, and also if she finds a soul that she really wants to connect with and say hi, she is looking for some people to play with her. So you might hear some children laughing and little voices going on in that house. Another story I was actually told was when the current owner and his wife went to the home in order to see if it was a home that they wanted to purchase. They were up on the second floor and they heard stomping and a door slam. And their real estate agent went downstairs and there was no one there. And she kind of looked at them and said, you probably don't want it. And so she was ready to go. And they looked at each other and they were like, no, we're good. We want this house. So they knew what they were getting into. Or at least they thought. Actually, in their bedroom, over their bed, there is a portal that entities are coming through. And it's so strong in that bedroom, they actually have a Bible open in order to help protect it. Now, sometimes that Bible isn't strong enough and entities are coming out. And one day, they were laying in bed and they started hearing in the attic things being moved. And they went upstairs and items were moved, and there was nobody in the house. They've also heard a lot of voices up in the attic, and things like marbles being played and different voices. And so there is a door in one of the bedrooms that goes up to that attic, and they actually keep it locked because as soon as you open that door, you just get this whoosh of bad energy just coming. It's this like overwhelming feeling that makes you nauseous. And while I was doing the videotaping, they left and I went to open up the door to get the videotape, and it was really hard to close that door. It was as if something was pushing on it to keep it open. And when I didn't lock it, I started to walk away, it opened up by itself, and I had made sure it was latched. It made me walk a little faster down the stairs. There are actually 4 stories that kind of stand out in my head about this place that I think it's going to make some hairs rise on your arms if you believe in any of this stuff. And if not, then just, again, sit down and enjoy a good story. So the first one is the wife and one of her friends were clearing out the house. And so one of those energy cleansings, as they were saying the prayers and everything at the top floor, they started walking down. And the owner was in the kitchen, and he felt this whoosh of energy, and all of the cabinets and everything just storm open and then slam. And there was a door, and it opened and slammed. And he was like, what is going on? And his wife came down and she goes, we're cleaning out the energies. Then the next item is there's actually a swimming pool, and there used to be all of these different trees and everything else. And allegedly there was a person who was hung from one of those trees that's no longer there. But you kind of get this feeling when you walk into the swimming pool, you get this feeling that there's an entity hanging off of one of those between the rafters, like this dark presence right there. And other people report seeing ghosts of kids playing in the pool, and then this dark energy kind of watching them. Another story that really kind of stands out, and actually there is footage of it but I wasn't able to get it, is they have this back room where the first owner used to have like a men's club, you know, only men can come back here and the girls can stay in the kitchen, and they would play poker or do like smoking cigars and everything else. And you go into that room, there is a coin on the floor, and allegedly what happens sometimes is you'll be in that room and out of nowhere, out of like thin air, a coin just drops. And they have that on film. And another one was there's a phone that doesn't work, and the owner had a family member who passed away, and he and his wife were going through all of the materials that their loved one had left, all of these different boxes, and the phone rang, and the homeowner went over and answered it, and there was just static, and he hung it up and it rang again. So that's interesting. When I was in there, there was apparently there's more than 4 stories. When I was back there, there's a back room that the owner likes to use for his office. And when I was in there, my knees just started really hurting in my chest, and I was having such a hard time breathing. And apparently there's a ghost of an old man that kind of hangs out in that room with him and he gets lonely when the owner's not around and makes his presence known. They think that ghost was actually one of the brothers who went missing in World War II, I believe, and they never found him. And so they're thinking maybe he got shot in the heart, and also his knee, and that's why that feeling is so strong. A lot of mediums go over there and also say that there was a brothel there, and not very good things happened in that brothel. I mean, it involved kids and everything, so I'm not going to go into great detail with that. But there's this huge tree there that's almost like a protector, and it's as if a feeling that there is another tree there, her sister tree, and that there was a Native American who was murdered underneath that tree. And so some people have seen the remnants of blood and everything else around it. And once that story was told, it was as if everything kind of lightened up, and that area became a little more cleansed and not as dark. Once the paranormal activity got even stronger, the house has gotten stronger and stronger, and there are entities that like to really harass the groundskeeper, so much so that he gets physically sick, and they like to harass him and slam doors. And he said he saw El Diablo in the back room and won't even go there. They like to open doors around him and slam the doors, and we do have a video of that in the Levy House while he was visiting there. They really like to play around with him. The last story I'm going to share is actually of the really dark entity that tends to have a lot of malice and is the one that is liking to torment the groundskeeper the most. And we actually have a video showing the dark figure walking in their bedroom, and that happened, and they just skedaddled and went and stayed with their friend Eric at the Henry Levy House. I mean, that was one of the straws, that they're hearing all of this talking and this dark entity, and they were like, you know what, we don't need to stay in our bedroom tonight. Those are just a couple of the stories about that house, and I would love to go into it more. Let us know if you want more stories about that house. Now we're gonna go over to the Henry Levy House, and I have so much on that home that it could be another like 45 minutes to an hour. However, you're lucky enough, there are other videos on the paranormal experience, and also there's going to be some historical documentaries on that home, and we'll have a lot more to share. But even more importantly, you can actually go visit that house and take tours every once in a while. All you need to do is click on the link down below and keep an eye on the Henry Levy House and when activities are coming up. All paranormal experiences aside, Bart and I absolutely love this neighborhood. All of the established trees and beautiful architecture. We can definitely see why people want to live in this neighborhood. Last year we featured the Henry Levy House in our very first Spooky Ventura County video. And we were lucky enough to have Eric invite us into his lovely home on multiple occasions for this video. So come with me as we get to explore this haunted, spooky house.
Okay, it's Eric. I'm here at the Henry Levy House. It's the next morning after we had our first encounter with ghosts here. So we were laying in bed, and all of a sudden we heard footsteps above us. Someone wearing hard-soled shoes walking back and forth right above us, and then we heard like moving of boxes and stuff, and it lasted a good minute, and then it just stopped.
The Levies lived here through the 70s, and so it was Henry Levy and his wife Camille, and Camille's sister Juliet. Juliet was an old maid, never did marry, but she was the last one to live in the house by herself.
Coming in here, sometimes I'll experience Mr. Levy here. When I first started coming here, I would experience him in the living room all the time. But then as time went on, I find him outside in the patio area a lot. He's always reading some paper every time I see him, and I don't know where he's getting his paper from, or if it's current news, or if he's just reading the same old news, because he seems to like not be a residual, because he'll pay attention to whatever you're doing, and he'll kind of get a reaction out of you. If he likes something, he'll kind of look at you and give you a nod or whatever and smile, and that's awesome.
So we do get some activity in here. When we have psychics come over, they feel Henry Levy in here. They always say, oh, and you know, we've had like 4 psychics here, and they all say the same thing. So we know if they say, different ones say the similar thing.
Heavy.
They say he sits in that corner, smoking his pipe.
A lot of the activity has really picked up, for me at least. No, I haven't been here like Eric's experienced millions of more things, but when we brought the paintings back, I do believe some of the activity picked up a bit. The spirits here are like I said, they're super nice, very friendly, open, but they do like to have a lot of fun. So this is one of my devices. This is the legendary 360. Now, I can't light it up. Notice it here. I cannot make this light up. There's no on button. Well, there is an on button, but you know, there's nothing on here. There's no remote control. And what it does, it scans electronic magnetic frequencies. It's like an EF map detector. But it's a 360, so we can actually track the energy as it moves throughout the room. So I'm gonna use this as we're walking through. And if any of the spirits in the house wanna come play with me, because I came all the way over, see? We have a spirit with us, see? They love this thing. I love it too. So, okay, we're gonna go this way. You wanna show us this way? Yeah? You're gonna point at her? All right, cool. But we're gonna go in Eric's office because he messed it up so we can go in there and spot it. All right, so let's take a trip. Thanks, guys. Yeah. We made contact with some of the spirits here, and there was a spirit telling us about somebody who was allegedly shot, and they took the body this way because this thing was pointing to us and said, where'd it go? And it went out that way. But what's interesting about this house being as big as it is, almost every room has a different kind of feel to it, as if each room has its own spirits attached to it. And this hallway is very active. If you can tell, as you walk through here, you start getting the sensation of tilting. Now, I call that funhouse effect. Things kind of lean in a certain direction. Sometimes you hit pockets of energy, and the pocket of energy will kind of tilt you a little direction. Like, whoa, what's going on with this thing? It's like, no, dude, I don't want to go that way. I want to come this way. But sometimes the energy will push you that way. So as you start coming through here, because you're standing right there and it's all flat, when you start coming through here, it starts feeling like you're leaning. So go ahead and come on through and see what you feel.
You definitely feel as if one leg is shorter than the other, as if you're going through a fun house, and you know how it tilts, and so you go more into one direction. And as you're walking, it feels as if there's a portal right next to the wall, and that's what's drawing all that energy and skewing everything.
I encounter Camille and Juliet in this room, like a lot. Juliet, I come across more than anybody else. So this is the legendary basement of the Levy House. Now, one of the stories that we got was one of the sisters was down here with us, like exactly in that room as we were walking, doing a walk through. And they were talking to us, and we had one of our psychics with us. I've had 3 psychics come through with me. And it's really cool because they were able to talk to us, and we learned something. We learned that one of the sisters allegedly had a love affair with somebody that wasn't approved by the family. And that person might have lost their life, but we were able to make contact with her, and she was telling us that she was getting ready to leave. They're leaving on a train, kept talking about a train, which is awesome. But then we were able to make contact with another gentleman, and he might have been someone who worked on the estate here that was having an affair with her, and he was also talking about trying to leave. And we encountered them, or him, in this spot over here, this little cubby spot. And there was a person here who was attached to that spirit waiting, which is like standing here. I was able to see him standing here, and he was facing this way with his back to me, and he kept talking to me with his back to me, saying, yeah, we're waiting, we're gonna go away, can't wait, and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, awesome, you know. Sorry, whatever happened. He never left this place, apparently. So something must have happened. And then we had spirits pointing us this way, which led to the outside, and that's where the pool is, and we know that there's been bodies on the property as well.
When I heard the story about how Juliet had fallen in love with one of the hired hands, and they think that something nefarious had happened to him, and also that there may have been a baby and something happened to it too when it was buried here on the grounds. As that story is being told, I got all of my hair started standing up on the back of my body, and I felt a presence behind me and a hand on my shoulder and breathing. I know that sounds weird, but it felt like this ebbing and flowing of energy right next to this ear. Almost as if she was so happy the story was finally being told to more and more people, and that it was helping her become more at peace.
When I was here doing a preliminary for Ghost Adventures, I was in this area in the back where there's a barbecue pit, and just kind of doing my basic stuff and just checking it out. And I was talking to somebody over here, and I saw a shadow person in the backyard move from where the little side of the wall where you can see the barbecue area and walk along that way as if it was going out somewhere, and it was a solid shadow person. I don't know if there was a gate there or something was there, but it just seemed to like go that direction like it would normally go down. And obviously the chandelier has been known to move. It's been known to move, sit in a position for a while, and then unmove itself back to where it was, which is interesting. I'd rather play with these things, but that's all you got, that's all you got. So there is a lot of activity here. When Eric's watching the DVR and stuff, he's able to actually listen in and play the playback, and right in this spot where the cameras are, there is just so much activity. Once again, this is a hub.
As you walk up the stairs and you see the landing, when we went there the first time, there was a table with 2 chairs, and as if Juliet was sitting there and listening, and they asked to have her like do that little light, and nothing happened. And then as we were talking about the pictures and everything else, and she was saying, and Eric was telling the story about how Juliet was drawing all of those paintings, and somebody said it's as if she was really lonely and seeing herself just as by herself now, and she was extremely sad. I heard a very strong no.
So one of the stories goes to that from several sightings is that Henry was mafia involved, and that there was lots of meetings, secret meetings that went on in this house, and things hidden, money hidden. There's apparently buried treasure here somewhere. There's a story that Juliet actually got pregnant by her lover at the time, and they forced her to get rid of the baby, and that the baby's buried here somewhere on the property. So we're learning lots of interesting stories.
Over here.
This is one of my favorite areas of the house. And every time I come in here, there's a lot of energy. Just walking from point A right here to point B right here. This was a specially used room, and they used to call it the Ouija room. They used to do Ouija board parties here, and a lot of spiritual stuff. Remember, this is the turn of the century, and the spiritual movement was huge, and anybody was getting into it. So if you were on Wall Street or a big player in the business, you definitely had to have your own custom Ouija board. And they would have Ouija board parties and seances here. That's why it was great to have a seance right outside the room, because whatever energy would be in here would come out there. And we actually had equipment here that were proximity meters. Now if the spirit gets close to it, it'll start buzzing how far away it is. Now, we were setting up out there, there was a table here with 2 chairs. We put a proximity meter right on top of the table, and as soon as we were setting up out there, the alarms kept going off. Like people were in here just sitting, waiting for the seance to start. So this room alone is highly active. As if you can see, we're getting a little bit of activity there. Hey, come on, come back and play with that. Come on. Is that Eric's mom? We've experienced a few things in here. I believe there was the spirit of a cat that came by. That was pretty interesting. We're not sure where that happened. But we've encountered spirits, other people here. The current owners, one of their parents has been seen here, has been experienced here multiple times. I believe it was Eric's mom was talking to us about some pictures and stuff. But sometimes, oh, really? Come back. Where'd you go? Hey, go. Where'd you go? Why don't you just come sit in this chair? Just come sit in the chair, and the chair won't do anything, okay? There you go. Now go to 2. Now move it back this way. Can you give me a yellow? Another yellow. How about a red? Come back. Come back this way. Oh, you're freaking them out.
Sorry.
Don't worry about it. It's harmless. stop it then. Anyway, yeah, a lot of spirit activity happening. Why don't you just come along? You know, that kind of stuff. All family, all friends, just having a good time. Kind of shy of this stuff in the beginning. See, now they're playing a little bit. Yeah, okay. All right, you want us to go to the next room? Lead us there, come on. Okay. There we go. We're on a mission. I'll set you over here. Maybe you stay in here. Sorry. Now this room is an interesting room. Now we're talking about how everything has a little different vibe to it. This room has a little bit darker vibe. I don't know if you can feel that it's a little bit thicker. In the investigations that I've done here and the voices that we hear through the spirit boxes and stuff talk about a younger boy, a younger male. I don't know if he's a teenager or whatever. Had some issues or a lot of chaos was happening here, kind of falling out with the family. We got the impression that something happened in this room. Now, we bring people here, the room feels good, but like a lot of the psychics will get to this point and say, no. I mean, I'm standing here and I can feel it. It's like, you're getting this gut instinct thing. It's like, well, I don't know. Like, this over here is all good, but if I get here, I don't know. So we came in here to try to make contact, and we learned that it is highly possible that we're still trying to verify this, that he committed suicide in this closet. Once you just cross from here into here, and the windows aren't open or anything, but you can feel the coldness in here, the density. Now, I'm not saying that he's depressed or angry or anything like that, or malicious. It's just his presence is still remaining here. And I was able to film through here and watch this massive softball-sized light anomaly come out and move around us, which was absolutely incredible. And then this door opened on its own. Now, in this bathroom, people have had a lot of experiences as well. Somebody kind of, one of the people we brought on with us to investigate actually walked in there and they had a little time warp thing going on. They were just kind of confused. I was like, wasn't sure. I was like, isn't the door over here? I mean, it was kind of weird. It's like, no, dude, this is the same room. He's like, it seems different. I'm ready to go. Now my arms are like freezing. You can feel the chill. Got one here and I got one here. All right, kids, you ready? We're gonna go through the rest of the house. Come on. But you gotta play with my toys. All right, let's go. So yeah, this is the children's room. I've seen a couple of light anomalies here. The first one I encountered, I was able to film. And there was a painting here. There was something here. Was it a painting, right?
I don't remember. I think it was a mirror.
It might have been a mirror. And I was filming it here, and I saw something in the mirror. And then I was able to kind of pan through, because I always come in when I'm doing B-roll. I just film left to right. And I was able to get to this point, and I could see this thing going really fast. I'm like, what was that? Thinking it might be a dog. But as soon as I made contact with the energy, I'm like, this is a kid. This is a little kid. And then I was able to see a little girl just kind of casually doing whatever it is, but for a brief second, it's like, oh, this must have been the kids' room or something, because I'm getting kid action in here, you know? But we don't get that at every part of the house. I mean, I'm sure they're around doing their thing, but this specifically is really popular for seeing little children here and hearing them play in the footsteps. I mean, wooden floors. It's like running on a stage. You hear. I'm sure Eric's hearing it when he's playing all this stuff back all the time. It's like, who is that? Who's asking for milk at this time of night? What's going on?
Miguel hears footsteps all the time.
This is the kids' room. They're running around and playing. And he attracts little kid spirits big time.
I think he attracts a lot.
Yeah. Well, especially little kid, because over at Alex's house, the little girl's always throwing stuff at him and trying to get his attention. And he just freaks out. Why is she doing this? Now I'm going to tell you about this thing. Oh yeah, the teeter. One day, it was just us three up here, hanging out, talking, trying to do some spirit box work, and this thing's sitting here. And we're walking around doing our thing, and all of a sudden, to our right, this thing just slams. It flips up. This thing flips. It was so hard that one of the pieces fell off. I don't know what piece that was. It might have been like a stopper or something. But this thing just doesn't do that. I mean, when it's in position, it stays in position. It doesn't move. And then when all of a sudden, when this thing just goes, wham, just like that. It caught our attention. It was pretty amazing, like, what? But he was able to catch that on camera, on house DVR.
Thank you. So that's what we're talking about, you guys.
Well, that pretty much covers the house.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Glad you enjoyed. I'm glad the spirits enjoyed.
More than you bargained for.
I know. I feel so blessed and lucky.
Well, we're going to be doing this a lot more often here. We'll be doing events and ghost tours, and even let them come and investigate, you know, as long as they do it respectfully, you know.
So we moved here just over 3 years ago, and we want to share it with the community. And we thought, what better way than to turn it into a bed and breakfast where people can come in and enjoy the house and sleep overnight here. I mean, we're 4 miles from the beach. Oxnard's such a rich ethnic community. There's so much to do here. It would just be ideal to have a bed and breakfast. Then as it turns out, there actually are no bed and breakfasts here yet. We're close to getting the official permission soon.
All paranormal activity aside, the historic neighborhood of Oxnard is gorgeous and worth a visit. If you're not familiar with this area, give us a call. Let's meet up and we'll take you on a tour and you'll just be amazed.
We are real estate agents and we would love to help you find your perfect home, whether it be haunted or not.